Gospel of Luke, chapter 7:11. Now it happened the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him and a large crowd. Interpretation. Today, let's talk about teenagers who, without encountering the Holy Spirit, spiritually perish each day but are meant to grow up and become part of society. The spiritual decay of teenagers is happening before the eyes of the entire society and the spiritual community, yet no one talks about it or opposes it. 12. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the city was with her. Interpretation. The Holy Spirit, examining this aspect, draws the attention of his disciples to the speech of teenagers and the attitude of society as a whole towards the actions and speech of teenagers. The teacher hears the speech of teenagers conversing with each other using profanity. Now, an appropriate question arises. Where are the father and mother of this teenager? Why didn't they raise their child properly? And the Lord reveals another layer, the incomplete family, when the head of the family is divorced and cannot be involved in raising the son, and the mother herself has to provide for both herself and her son, so all her attention is focused on how to support the family. The teenager does not receive proper attention and upbringing. The teenager is raised by the street, although God offers society, many Christian organizations, to raise teenagers. But the spiritual decay of teenagers is happening before the eyes of Christian religious communities. They raise their voice only when one of the teenagers is physically dying. 13. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." Interpretation. I have told you a rather sad story, haven't I? But there is no need to cry. We need to act. We need to bring teenagers to Jesus Christ. 14. Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." Interpretation. We need to approach teenagers, awaken in them an interest in God. We must not fold our hands and bury this problem, but filled with faith, let us awaken life in them. 15. So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother. Interpretation. We need to awaken teenagers to spiritual life so that they can be baptized with the Holy Spirit and speak in other tongues. 16. Then fear came upon all, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has risen up among us, and God has visited his people." Interpretation. When teenagers speak God's words and in other tongues, fear will come upon sinners, for this is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit, and it will turn out that through teenagers, God will visit his people.